Hi, I'm Kate Colbert. I'm the co-author of the book Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, and I'm a higher education consultant, president of Silvertree Communications, and I'm here at South by Southwest EDU with Philly Goes to College.
My name is Dr. Joe Sallustio. I am the Chief Experience Officer at Lindenwood University, the co-founder and host of the EdUp Experience podcast, and co-author of the book Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education. And I'm here at South by Southwest with Philly Goes to College.
We are here with Kate Colbert and Joe Sallustio, co-authors of Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education. Thank you both for being with us. In your book, you include 7 mighty tips for choosing the right college. What are the most important takeaways from that chapter that students and families should consider?
Oh gosh, so much. So thanks for asking. I think the first thing that we talk about is understanding that brand name of a college or university does not necessarily equate to quality. So whether you're planning to go off to college yourself or you have a child who's planning to go off to college soon, it's really easy when you're trying to decide among 4,000 options in the United States to say, well, we should make a list of the schools we know. And you'll inevitably think of the big state universities in your state, or you might think of, schools that you think of as elite or prestigious, or you're going to think of things like Ivies or Big Ten schools. And one of the things that we try to remind people when we talk about in the book is that the fact that there are accreditors who accredit the academic programs at colleges and universities helps there be parity. So if you have a kid who wants to study a particular discipline and they've found 5 schools that they like that offer it, for the most part, when it comes to the academic program, the accreditors have ensured that parity. So a college is a college is a college, and nobody seems to want to understand that. So you need to be thinking about that, the difference between a $20,000 a year college and a $50,000 a year college. Are you paying for a brand name? Are you paying for a certain type of campus experience? But ultimately, if you're there for the education, which is what you should be there for, try not to get starry-eyed about a name. Start looking for what's the right experience and what's the right academic program to put you on the path for the career that you're looking for. So that's one of the first ones, and I'm going to hand this off to Joe because we have so much inside baseball for parents and students.
What I would add right now in this, in line with the book, but maybe more for this moment, would be for students who are of a traditional age looking at college, how many courses are offered online, how many courses are offered on ground. So each student wants to approach education differently. And there are a lot of traditional age students that want all online courses. There's a lot of traditional students, 18-year-old going to college for the first time, that want all on-ground courses. So asking an institution, talking with them, saying, how do I go forward with this pathway, with this major that I'm looking at? It's also okay to be undecided. That's okay to be undecided. It's not a bad thing to not know exactly what you want to do. It's okay to figure it out. That's what college is supposed to be, is about figuring out what you want to do as you leave college into the workforce. So don't feel that pressure. If you can avoid it, enjoy that first year. Try out different courses. Figure out what you want to do for the long term, and then go after it. But I would just tell you, to anybody who's looking at college in this day and age right now, ask and find a college that offers you what you want, which is that mix of on-ground and online courses.
And a follow-up question there. So you mentioned, first, students and families probably make a list of the schools they're already familiar with. As a student, how can I start to get familiar with schools that I have never heard of before?
Oh, the internet's a beautiful thing right now, isn't it? AI allows for comparisons. You can use AI programs and say, tell me the programs in my region, the schools in my region that offer this program, and it will give you a list. I mean, using AI, ChatGPT, Google Bard, Claude to facilitate and help with that college search. These are tools that we didn't have a couple years ago. 2 years ago, we didn't have these tools. So using current tools to look at colleges. And I think to Kate's point earlier, to remember that backyard barbecue, my kid goes to school, which parents really have focused on for years and years. If you don't get into the college that you want and you're a student, there is a college for you that's going to offer you exactly what you want, and it's going to be of the same quality of the school that you didn't get into or that didn't want you. And I would just say, if there's a school out there that says we don't want you, I guarantee you there is a school that does. So don't lose that confidence. Don't let that doorway that closes knock your confidence, because I guarantee you there's a school out there for you.
Yeah, I would love to say something about what you just said, because this idea of making this list, right? So I do a lot of market research with high school students, college bound students, and I've seen photographs of the way that some of them make their lists, and there's like their safety list. Like, I'm pretty sure I would get into these schools no problem. Versus these are the reach schools. These are those sort of middle the pack schools, and it's really interesting to see how students are doing that right now. And I think you have to be looking at it from all perspectives, right? So what is this going to cost you, and will you be paying for it for the rest of your life? And is that something that you want to do or can do? There's we try to, the chat GPT, that kind of stuff is really great advice. And a way that it was not available to us from when we were trying to choose colleges. And so you have wonderful opportunities. Ask the people that you know. So if you're a high school student, be asking not just where your parents went to school, that kind of stuff, or maybe they didn't go to school and you're going to be a first generation college student. Talk to your favorite teachers. Where do they think you should go to school and why? Talk to your coaches. Where do they think you should go to school and why? If you're interested in mathematics, ask your math teacher, what's a good math school? Has a great math program. And so there are people in your life. By the way, you probably have friends, if you're in high school, who have older brothers and sisters who are already at college. They are a really great resource to find out, where are they going to school, and is that a good fit? And then figure out how to pay for it. There's a website called Tuition Fit, which is fantastic. You put in some basic information, your GPA, your test scores. Once you're to that point of you've applied to some schools and you've been offered some financial aid, put in what they offered you, and they will tell you what other students who look just like you got offered. Because guess what? There's this thing called a tuition discount, right? And right now, for private liberal arts colleges in the United States, the average tuition discount is about 52%. So you might think the only thing you can negotiate on is the price of a house or the price of a car, but you can negotiate the price of your tuition. And you can go to a website like Tuition Fit and you can find out. So 52%, think about that, is $40,000 to go to a school, but the average student's only paying, $18,200, right? But those discounts are not offered to you automatically necessarily, right? It's not just you take a FAFSA and they say, you should be asking, and what else can you do for me? And by the way, once you start a program somewhere, partway through that first semester, ask them again, what can we do to repackage my aid for next semester? Especially if your family has fallen on some hard times or something about your circumstances have changed, you can negotiate your tuition. And so there are just so many things you can be thinking about. College can and should be accessible to you, affordable to you, flexible for what you want to learn, where you want to learn, how you want to learn it, when you want to learn it. And absolutely, it's not the best advice I ever got about college was from an Uber driver. And I had just arrived in his city to do some market research for a university, and he asked what I was doing, and believe it or not, he seemed interested. And we told him about, I was working on trying to figure out how kids make the college choice. And he said, here's what I told my nieces and nephews. And he said, getting into a college, he says, it's not a prize to be won. It's a match to be made. They need to be right for you, not just the other way around.
When writing your book, you spoke with over 100 university presidents, today I learned that number was 270, about opportunities for higher education to modernize. What should students themselves know about these conversations and how it impacts their higher education journey?
Yeah, so for the book, it was over 100 university presidents, but since then, it's come up to about 270 presidents since we wrote the book, so a year later. That's a lot of conversations with today's most trailblazing leaders in higher education. Here's what I would tell you. These presidents are very passionate about learning, and they're very passionate about serving students. And the vast majority of the individuals that I've interviewed at the presidential level are doing what is in the best interest of serving students. And that's putting students at the center of every single decision that they make. Now, it's not always easy. We have structures, we have legacy, tradition, and all these things can all of these things can hinder the frictionless experience that students expect. For any student today, you think about Netflix. As I always like to compare it to Netflix. You think about Netflix, you go to Netflix, and your introduction comes up to your favorite show, and you press skip intro. And just an introduction can be skipped. So if it's that easy to skip an intro on a TV show, why is it hard to go through higher ed? And that is the type of issue that today's presidents are tackling.
I, by the way, love presidents, and it's one of the reasons I love Joe so much, because his relationship with all these presidents was what brought us together and what made the book possible. And here's a little piece of advice that nobody's probably giving families and students. Check out the presidents. So once you've got your list and you say, these are the 6 schools, the 8 schools, the 12 schools that I'm looking at, go check out who runs it. Right? You would not want to work for an organization, for a job, if you didn't know whose leadership it was under, right? So go check out the president. So we had the opportunity today to sit on a panel with Dr. Philly Mantella, who's the president of Grand Valley State University. She was the first female president who was interviewed for the EdUp Experience podcast. And she does really fun stuff. So you could find out, if you were looking at Grand Valley, that she does these cool things called Philly on the Street. And she does these things where she's out there with a camera and she's talking to the students and she's really accessible. Is the president of the college or university you're looking at, are they locked in a boardroom somewhere in a business suit, or are they showing up to the football games? Are they in it with the students? Are they doing listening sessions? Do they every quarter have a president's sort of forum where people can come in and they can be, ask questions of the president and get those questions answered? So take a look at whether or not, Daria Willis was a great president that you interviewed, who you can find her on Instagram, and she's really real, right? She talked about that, she keeping it 100, right? And you can find out who these people are outside of work. So presidents are real people, but they make consequential decisions that impact your experience as a student at their college. So make sure you think that they're the kind of person that you would want to look up to as a leader, because just because you don't work at the college or university doesn't mean that president won't influence your experience there. So I think it's kind of a unique way to take a look at a college, or to narrow it down when you're making a final decision. Is this place being run by somebody who, if all hell broke loose for me somehow as a student and I needed to go beyond my professors, beyond a department chair, beyond a dean, and I needed to talk to the president, is this somebody I think really cares about the students? I think it's an interesting way to think about it.
So in your panel today, you discussed the ways in which colleges and universities are and are also not staying on top of technology, innovation, providing students with the skills required for a modern workforce. If I am looking for which college is the right fit, how do I know if my college, if a college is innovative?
Oh gosh, what a great question. So there are so many things that would be a good indicator of it. So, part of your question was around, a college that's going to set you up for success in terms of being able to get the job that you want. So I would be taking a look at, do people who graduate from that institution or get a certificate or whatever you're seeking from that institution, do they end up working at the kinds of companies you want to work for? So if I know I want to go into banking, I'm going to be a finance person, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I want to work for Bank of America because they're headquartered there. I might want to go over to LinkedIn and type in the name of that college and Bank of America and see how many people who, can I find a bunch of alums who went to the school I'm looking at who work at the place I want to look at, right? So there are some things that you can be doing in that regard to figure out. I would be looking at career services. So I think we sometimes think of innovation and we think about it sort of technology or these gigantic ideas that nobody's ever had, but are they innovating in terms of, right? So are they a Northeastern university that has relationships with 2,900 colleges and universities, 2,900 businesses for co-ops, where while I'm a student, I get to go work for 6 months at a time for an organization that's likely going to hire me when I graduate. So are they innovating in terms of career services? Are they innovating in terms of the learning experience itself, the way that you're actually learning from day one throughout? Are they innovating in the way that they support you? And so we talked a little bit today about a quote that I love to quote Dr. Monty Randall, who's the president of the College of the Muskogee Nation, and he said, access without support is not opportunity. And that is huge for me. It's not just about letting me in. It's not just that there are other students at this school who look like me, think like me, love like me, pray like me, whatever. it's, am I going to be supported? Can I truly belong here? And there are innovative student support services that are happening these days too. And so, but I'm going to pass that to Joe because this is a huge question with so much to cover.
I would say I don't have much to add to that. And I would say that's a very good answer. I would just say, how do you know a school is innovative? If they offer the education the way that you want to pursue it.
Okay, final question. Can you each tell us about your best college memory?
Oh man, my best college memory is certainly the relationships that I forged. In fact, what I would say is that I have a text group of my college roommates where we swap stories, memories of things that we did. And one of the most fond memories we had a snow day actually because I went to my undergraduate in Oneonta, New York, so it snowed quite a bit, and we made a movie. And it was about a man who, was holding someone hostage, and of course we used a banana from the meal hall and as the gun and so on. We were just college kids having a good old time on a snow day, but that created a lot of memories, and that's what college is about. It's about making lifelong, lasting connections, and I can't recommend it enough.
Oh my gosh. I loved college, but I loved grad school more, actually. I was a really nerdy, sort of bookish girl during my undergraduate experiences, and I didn't have a whole lot of fun, but one of my favorite things in my second graduate program, actually, my business school program, was a really cool hands-on project. And so our capstone for our MBA program is we had to essentially run a multinational tennis shoe manufacturing company. And it was this whole virtual sort of experience. It was all computerized, and there was a way to win. And we ran a company called Finish Line Shoes, and we had to make decisions about, whether or not we were going to buy a manufacturing plant, in India, and if we were selling things, and were we taking out more loans, and were we, selling back stock or buying back stocks, or what we were doing. And it was happening in real time, and we were competing for market share. We were trying to sell as many shoes as we possibly could, and we had to do this for like 14 weeks. And it was really aggressive, and my classmates and I would stay up really late, and we'd be at each other's houses. And one of my favorite experiences with that is I was on a business trip because I was working full time and getting my MBA, and I walked into a hotel. I was checking in at like 1 a.m, and my phone rings, and it's one of my classmates, and he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, a factory just became available, in Latin America. And he's like, and should we buy it? Like, I think we should buy it. And I'm like, tell me a little bit more. And I'm asking for details, and he's giving me the details, and I'm like, go ahead and buy it. I'm like, make an offer on the factory. Just make an offer on the factory. And I hang up the phone, and I'm here to check in for my room. And he's like, I'm sorry, can I just ask what that was about? And he said, well, you were buying and I said, oh, we're buying a shoe manufacturing a factory in Latin America. And he's like, no kidding. And I just didn't have the heart to tell him that it was a project for grad school. So I just let him think I was all powerful and made those kinds of decisions without checking with anybody else at 1 a.m. But that hands-on stuff, right, is so much fun. So, like, if I had to do all over again, I would definitely be choosing programs, whether they're, short-term credentials or long-term sort of things like a degree. I would be looking for hands-on stuff, like where are the simulations, where are the projects, where are the activities, where do I get to test out my skills, because the classroom itself is not a whole lot of fun unless the faculty make it really fun. And so that was a really fun memory.
Oh, well, thank you both so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.